Okay, welcome. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Old College Try, kind of the first 2026 kickoff to talk about all things FAFSA. We're going to start just a high level. What is this form? We hear about it a lot. Why should everyone submit it? That's the headline. Why should everyone submit the FAFSA? We also talk about what's new with the FAFSA this year and what can we be doing as both parents and students today that's going to make life easier on us as October 1st approaches. Thanks for listening. Okay, Peggy.
Right.
Almost FAFSA season. Here we go. The first kind of episode of 2026. And this will be commonplace for the next probably couple months here.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I don't know how you feel, but I feel like, didn't the FAFSA, I feel like I haven't had enough time since last year for October 1 to come, but
I hear it. It's like, what? 5 weeks away or whatever it is, maybe 6 weeks. Yeah, it's wild. So, but before we do that, Peggy, I'm going to remember, I'm remembering.
Nice.
Yep. My song, I'm Up This Week. This is actually an ode to you, Peggy. And let's see if you can guess the band. The name of the song is Peg.
Yeah, Steely Dan.
That's a banger. I love Steely Dan. I love that tune in particular. Mark Knopfler, lead singer, actually, he did the whole print. You know that movie Princess Bride?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, he did the music for that. It's actually what Rosie walked down the aisle to, that song.
Oh, really?
Bride, yeah. So we're big Steely Dan fans. Wild West End is another one for you. Know that tune?
That's not Steely Dan, or
it is Steely Dan. It is Steely Dan. Put that on your list. It's a deep cut. It's on my Sunday morning playlist. Wild West End. Wild West End. Beautiful Steely Dan song.
Yeah, my friends all the time. I'll get all these videos all the time because they're a Steely Dan concert and they're playing Peg, and they said,
there you go. Yeah, it's awesome. Great tune. Great tune. Right. Okay, so we're off to the races here, and again, we'll talk kind of some basics with the FAFSA and kind of ramp up as these weeks go on and we get closer to kind of October 1st and execution. Today, we'll start with some real high-level basics and then also some relatively new updates, what's changed this year. But I guess in its kind of simplest terms, Peggy, what is the FAFSA? And then we can both talk a little bit about why we recommend that everyone submits this application.
Yeah. So the FAFSA is the main student aid form. It stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. It's through the federal government. You've probably read, heard, however you get your news about it's been in the news a lot over the last 5-6 years, major changes. So basically most schools in this country, except for about 250, that's how you're getting on their radar for financial aid. You're submitting this form, up to 20 schools at once, goes to everybody. And as Matt just hinted, we recommend every family submits this. We'll talk about why. But you got to get this form in, and that's why we're starting to talk about it today. There's a second form that some schools require, but only about 250 out of the 3,000 plus schools we have in this country. So we're not going to get into that today. We just want to get you teed up for the FAFSA because, it's about 6 weeks. It's going to be here before you know it. And anything where you're rushing, 1, if you're rushing, it's stressful. 2, you make mistakes. And 3, the unknown is stressful. So that's why we're here. So if you've heard this term, even if you have a 29, 28, this is all good. You shouldn't just disconnect until next week, right? Understanding all this stuff is good for everybody. If you have a class of 2027 student, then you really need to be tuned in because the younger parents, you can't go and do this October 1. Only the class of 2027, but it's really valuable information for you to have so you know what's coming.
Yeah, and I think it's worth spending some time talking about, why don't some people submit the FAFSA? What are some of the common reasons that people choose not to do this? And, I think probably the biggest one in our experience is there's just this assumption like, hey, I'm not going to get financial aid, so this is a waste of time. It's a pain in the butt, and I'll just skip that, right? And I heard from so-and-so, my neighbors, my coworkers, my in-laws that, again, it's a waste of time. You're not going to get anything. Don't bother. So I think that's one of the biggest reasons that, people decide not to. I mean, number one, we always challenge that assumption because countless times every single year we run into we have this conversation with families and we say, okay, let's talk specifics, right? We'll go into your MyCap, your college aid, mycap.collegeaidpro.com account right now. See what your SAI is. See what these schools are actually going to cost you. A lot of people are surprised to say, geez, I make $300,000 and I got a decent amount of savings and I own my home and I'm still going to get financial aid. Maybe, right? It depends on the school. Oftentimes the answer to that is yes. So don't make this assumption, because too many people leave money on the table by doing that. Number two, even if you're right, some of you guys are going to be right. You're not going to be eligible for traditional need-based aid, but you are still throwing your hat in the ring. You're still entitled to some things. Number one, this federal direct student loan, which I won't unpack, but I'll just tell you that's something else that we recommend everyone take advantage of. And so long as you do the FAFSA, you're eligible. It doesn't matter if you're a billionaire, right? The other one is, there's more schools than you would think that in order to be eligible for merit-based scholarships, right, you have to do the FAFSA. It's just a formality. You're basically telling these colleges, hey, if I'm eligible for any discounts, I'd like to have them. So don't overthink this one, right? Don't over-rotate. Do the FAFSA. Okay, regardless of what your assumptions are, do it. You're not going to hurt your kids' chances of being denied, not being accepted into a college, right? So, again, we can talk about a lot of reasons why we want people to do it, but to oversimplify, just freaking do it. Yeah, and I don't know.
And it would add to that, because we've seen this with our team of experts. When you don't apply that freshman year, you're telling a lot of schools, like, I'm good. I never need a penny from the financial aid office for need-based aid. And some of them will really stick to that. Like if you have a hardship, COVID, whatever, you lose a job, life happens, right? They might not come to the table and say, oh, we hear you, but we have you slotted for zero money out of our office. And they can do that. And some of them, that's their policy. So that's another reason. And then even the higher level, your first question, why people don't, and you touched on it, it's they think they're not going to get anything, but also they're worried about admission. And the bottom line is, if you need financial aid, tell the college and sleep at night. If they won't let you in because of that, which is not how college, they don't look and say, oh, they need financial aid, deny, we're not even reading essays. That's not how they do it. They form a class, and it could be an issue at certain schools when they're finalizing their class. But if it is, and you need the financial aid, that's not the school for your child. Don't start not checking things because you want your child to get in, and then you literally cannot afford the school and you're stuck anyway. So just be very careful with that kind of logic. I mean, you've seen it, right, Matt? We both seen it where people are very worried about that piece, about getting
absolutely. And we saw, I would love to pick on the school, but I don't want to. I
know. I'm trying to think, because it was never Slack.
Our colleague just recently posted an example not long ago of because what Peg's referring to here is that for those of you that have already started your common application, and by the way, if you haven't, you should, okay? You guys should be fully in the mix, specifically your student, your class 2027 student should be kind of fully in that application right now. And they're going to ask you a question. Do you want to apply for financial aid or not? Are you going to be applying for financial aid? And we just recommend that the default setting to that question is yes, right? There's some exceptions. Sometimes we have conversations with families and we will collectively agree that, okay, we can leave that unchecked. But if you have even the slightest concern about the cost of college, you just got to check that box and don't think about it, because where we were going with this is that there was just recently somebody had left that blank because they thought, I don't want to hurt my kids' chances of getting into their top choice. They get into their top choice. They're eligible for a meaningful amount of financial aid, but the college says, too bad, you didn't check that box. You're not getting anything. And it costs them huge amounts of dough. So, yeah, don't make that mistake. Yep. Okay.
Yep. And just sleep at night, like I said.
Exactly.
Love
just
it.
on to the next. Check that box, do the FAFSA, on to the next. 100%.
Yep.
We don't need to over-rotate. Yep. Okay, so, a couple, over the last few years, there's been some wholesale changes to FAFSA, no longer relevant to you all because those are kind of in the past. But there are some changes, some updates this year that are worth flagging that we want to talk about to make sure that you avoid these situations, should they be relevant, and just make sure that you show up prepared to make this thing go as smooth as possible. And specifically this ID verification, Peggy, if you want to talk about what that is a little bit and what families what families can do about it, I guess.
Yeah, so the Department of Ed was getting data that there was some fraud. I mean, we have fraud everywhere, right? And entities that weren't students were submitting the FAFSA. So they created an ID verification part of the FAFSA. Please hear, this is not to everybody. And if you get flagged, it's fine. I'm going to tell you what you're supposed to do. You didn't do anything wrong. Just follow the steps, present what they need. So if you do get flagged, real time while you're in the FAFSA, you're going to have to prove your identity. So you're going to want to have a U.S. passport, a U.S. driver's license, a state issued ID that's not for driving. People have those IDs for whatever they need, or like a tribal, military, or permanent resident / green card, any of those things. The key thing is you want to have that handy because it's timed. So when they ask you to start being in front of the camera, and you also need to be visible, as you can't be off camera if this happens. And then you have to have that ID because it's timed. You can't go figure out and find it in your junk drawer, right? So that's the main difference right now, or it's not a change, it's just an addition. Right. And for a lot of you, it's a nothing. Like it's never even going to pop up. But we just want people, it's the first year it's coming out. So anything like this, there's going to be some hiccups most likely. So stuff could pop up, even if it's really not, you're not really a prototype for this to happen. So just have the ID ready. That's the main thing.
Yeah, you said it. In all likelihood, for most people listening, this is going to be a nothing burger. It's going to be relevant. You're not going to get flagged as a high risk, and it's business as usual. You're going to start the student section of the FAFSA first. The FAFSA is kind of two sections. The easiest our firm recommendation in terms of order of operation, just because it goes smoother, is start the student section first. Most of you are going to, with your student or your student on their own, and by the way, a lot of parents do this for their students. Can't really do that this year because in case you get flagged, we need the student there to actually take a picture, show the ID, etc. So at a minimum, you guys got to be doing this together. But most of you, again, you're going to submit that, or you're going to complete that section with your student, hit submit, and boom, you're on to the parent section. And again, business as usual. In case you're one of those kind of rare cases that gets flagged, it's important that you have this ready, because the quote unquote consequence, and there seems to be some gray area here, is that if you don't have this ID in time, you don't get the picture in time, and it's a little bit vague, but they're saying within a few minutes. Now you're going to have to work with each college individually to kind of sort this out and prove you are who you're saying you are on the FAFSA and all that. So all that's to say, it's going to get real messy. It's going to get real time consuming. There's going to be a level of discomfort in that you're going to be like, oh my God, my FAFSA is not submitted. Am I going to miss a deadline? Right. So it's just going to add to an already stressful process, add a bunch of layers that we would like to avoid and we can't avoid here. Something else I would just say as well, I expect the colleges to be understanding here. I think if this happens and you're, approaching a deadline, I'm not promising on behalf of any colleges they can do what they want, but my guess is they're not going to hold this against you. But I would just hedge your bets. Take a screenshot or whatever if this happens in real time to say, hey, we tried to submit our FAFSA on October 5th and now we got this huge admin challenge, right? So you can at least say we did everything we could and now we're kind of trying to get through this red tape. So again, colleges will probably work with you if something wonky happens, but do everything you can.
Especially since it's the first year and there's been a lot of changes with the FAFSA. The colleges are used to wonkiness from the government. Right. So yeah, I agree. I think they're gonna work with you on it, but you're gonna have to have some patience because they could be overwhelmed as well. So
Exactly. And our understanding is that even colleges are like, well, we're not crystal clear on how we're supposed to do this verification. So
yeah.
this change is happening in kind of real time. And I think some of there's some, whatever, not this information hasn't disseminated down to every single financial aid office yet. So we shall see. Okay, let's talk about timing, Peggy. What can we do now? When do we actually have to execute here? Just walk us through the timeline a little bit, and again, specifically for class 2027.
Yeah, so it goes live October 1. Do you need to submit it October 1? We usually tell everybody at CAP no, because it can crash. There's a lot of traffic. And for most people, what you're really wanting to do, you don't want to miss deadlines, but October 1 is not a deadline. It's when it goes live. So what you want to do with your child's list at that point, probably have a pretty firm list by October 1. Figure out what the priority financial aid form deadline is for that given school. And it's going to be dependent on if your child's applying early decision, early action, regular admission, rolling. So it's not just one deadline. Usually you can find those on the website pretty quickly. With my kids way back when, I made them, they had a deadline page in their binder. They literally had a binder. And because I wanted to go look and see, like, where are we with this deadline and this deadline? So if you miss deadlines, even if we have older parents listening with kids in college, they can sock it to you. And I've had examples where it's 10,000 less in grants. I can't figure it out. And I'm like, did you submit your form late? Even the upperclassmen deadline? Oh yeah, I did. Now we got to go fight because you missed the deadline. So find out those deadlines. I will say, if you're eligible for state aid in your state, many states use the FAFSA, and you want to get in the queue, if you will. So you don't have to do it October 1, but if your first school is November 15th, the deadline, your child's schools, I would submit it, pretty soon after October 1. Just get it in so that you're in the queue if you're eligible for need-based aid. All the media says October 1, get in there, do your and it's usually crazy day 1 and day 2. So, and it's not really necessary for families to do it that early.
Yeah, I think another really common myth is this: hey, the first come first serve in terms of money, and the earlier you have your FAFSA in, the more money you're going to get. That's largely a myth. There's some truth attached to it, and you said it right, in that if you miss a deadline, you have to plan on getting less money. That should kind of be your mindset. Will some colleges be forgiving? Yes, but plenty of them will not, and that's that. It's very black and white, and they don't care how much you kick and scream. That's just the deal, okay? And that can be a hard reality for a lot of families. So I think best practice, now generally speaking, again, I can't speak for every single college in the country, but generally speaking, the earliest priority deadline is November 1st, right? And that's only a smaller percentage of colleges, and only if we're applying early action or early decision. But again, maybe somebody's going to beat that this year. I would bet against it.
There's a few that were October, like UNC Chapel Hill was October 15th, but that's rare. That's not the norm. But again, look it up.
And even the UNC Chapel Hill one says, but so long as you have it in by March 1st. So it's a little bit confusing, but whatever. Don't play with fire there. And if there's a 10:15 anywhere, get it in by 10:15. But I think the best practice, right, and something that we do internally at CAP with the families that we work with, and the way that we coach it is, get the thing in October. Right, just get the thing in before November 1st, and obviously, if you have those November 1st deadlines, don't get it in. Get it in.
Don't do it on Halloween.
Exactly. Give yourself some breathing room for some snafus to happen, but then you're kind of good, and get it into every college, even if you're applying regular decision, because why not? And of course, if you add a college to the list after November 1st, no problem. You log back in and you add that college and send the FAFSA off to there. But that's best practice. But yeah, I mean, colleges will tell you, and don't take my word for this. Call them directly. If they have a November 1st deadline, it doesn't matter if you get that thing in on October 1st or November 1st. You're in that first kind of quote unquote wave of money.
The download, yeah.
Yeah, you've satisfied the priority deadline. Now again, if you get it in November 2nd, we could have a problem potentially, right? But yeah, often years, the FAFSA will just be kind of a tech nightmare those first couple of days, because the masses that kind of think they're going to get a better deal if they get submitted on October 1st. If that was the case, we'd get every family's FAFSA submitted on October 1st, and it's just not. Okay.
Yep.
And I forgot, Peggy, did you talk about, so again, we know we can't necessarily get at this FAFSA for another 5 weeks yet, no matter how proactive we are, even if our list is done, whatever. Did you talk about what we can do right now?
Yeah. And I will say that toward the end of August, and we'll be all over it, there is going to be this second beta group where if you want to submit early, you can go to studentaid.gov and put in a request form. You don't need to. And honestly, if they're getting the kinks out of stuff, if you don't need to, I don't recommend doing it, because then you're part of the test case, if you will. So, let them figure it out. But as far as what you can do now, since you can't, if you go to FAFSA.gov, you will see the FAFSA, but that's not the 2728. So do not be a super go-getter and submit the form for the kids that are just
going to be last year's.
Yeah, it's last year's. So I know it's kind of confusing, but you're waiting for the 2728. But what you can do now, the way you're going to get into the FAFSA, and what Matt said earlier, you're going to be with your child. Your child's going to do their part, submit it, and invite you. But anybody that's invited, and they call those contributors on the FAFSA, just means you're contributing your data. Doesn't mean you're obligated to pay a certain amount. It's a little bit of a charged word, but you all need what's called a federal student aid ID, FSA ID. And if you Google it, just make sure you're at a studentaid.gov blah, blah, slash blah, 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 and just say create FSA ID. You'll get there, because you're putting in your social security, your date of birth. So you want to make sure you're not on a fraudulent site, and you just create the username, the password, your security questions. It's super fast. In real time, it'll approve you, which is new. Several years ago, you had to wait. So we were preaching to people, don't wait till the last minute. We're still preaching that, because, tech is tech. You never know. So just get it. You're going to need this every year. Your child's going to need it. And like, I have twins. Each one of my kids had to have an FSA ID. It's not a family FSA ID. It's an individual. It's by social security number. And then whoever is going to be contributing. So for a family that's married, one parent, as long as you file your taxes married filing jointly, which is the typical way to do it, one parent gets their FSA ID. And then every year you're going to use that. So store it in a safe place, your students and yours, different email addresses. You can't put your email on both of them. Your child needs to have their own. But I will say, if you're married filing separately, then you both need to do it. And if you're divorced, then the custodial parent is the only one that's going to need this as a contributor, because they're the only ones on the form. We'll get more in the weeds on that down the road as we get closer to the FAFSA going live. So you have to figure out who the custodial parent is. And that's a longer conversation. I'll just define it for you. We help people with this all day long, because there's definitely strategy and planning. The custodial parent, if you're divorced or separated, is the parent that provided the most financial support on a year look back from when you're submitting the form, not tax year or anything else. So we're 6 weeks away. There's a planning opportunity there. We can help you with that. If you're like, I don't know who it is, it could be either one of us. You want it to be the parent that's going to get you the most aid while you're being honest and following the rules. So that's kind of a long-winded answer, but I wanted everybody to know who should get that FSA ID. But you can go ahead and get that ready now. Put it in your safe, secure spreadsheet, and you're good to go. You're ready to roll.
Yeah, it's an important conversation, especially for these split household families, right? Whether it's divorced or separated, and just you want to be very strategic in terms of if there is a choice to be made, and more often than not there is, of who the quote unquote custodial parent is. And it can also be confusing because it's not who the student lives with, it's not who claims the student as an exemption on tax returns. It's not who necessarily makes more money or has more in savings, right? It's not
necessarily who pays child support.
That's right.
It's not what it says in the legal documents. There's all these,
It is who provides the most support to the student. So again, there's a lot there, which is why we will dedicate more time to unpacking some of these, I guess, more unorthodox scenarios. But to your point, Peggy, this is not a conversation we want to start in October or November. We got to have this conversation now. And then again, too, we will spend some time talking about, well, what if my ex is not cooperative or is off the grid or whatever? Like that's another conversation as well, where again, there's things that we can do to make sure that you are not going to be punished, for a challenging situation that's somewhere in that bucket. Neither's your student, but
Yeah.
we got to follow some protocols to make sure that happens.
Yeah, and
Okay.
if you have a younger child, a 28, a 29, again, super valuable information because remember, it's that year look back. So you can start working together on, if you can, who should be that custodial parent. So you're not having to make that decision right at the last minute. That creates stress, and
Yep.
sometimes mistakes, and once you submit it, it can change from year to year, but it's very messy to go to all the colleges and say, uh-oh, we didn't do it right. And we've never had that because we never do it wrong with our families, but I'm sure it's very messy if you do that because it's, documentation and the whole bit. It's probably very messy. So just
Said
avoid
another way, Peggy, we're perfect. We are perfect here.
that.
But listen, here's something else. This is my philosophy, and I think most of us at College Aid Pro share this philosophy in terms of division of labor in this process and in a household. The admissions applications and the essays, that's really the student's responsibility. And it doesn't mean you're not a sounding board as the parent or a guide or another set of eyeballs. I think that's great, but they need to own that, right? You can't be writing these essays for them and doing this for them. It's not, it's just, we would firmly recommend against that. Now, I think for most households too, it is the students have a hard enough job with the admissions applications and finalizing, again, this list of colleges, et cetera, nailing senior year, enjoying senior year, right? Where I think the financial aid applications, again, in most households should largely be the parent's responsibility, okay? Because, again, a lot of this stuff is over their head, and we're talking about stuff like taxes and federal income tax paid and adjusted gross income, things that most 16, 17, 18-year-olds are just not, it's not common knowledge for them, right? So that would be my recommendation. What can we do about this as parents now? If you're not already, make sure you set up your free account with us, mycap.collegeaidpro.com. Put your working list of colleges in there. We're going to tell you, okay, these guys all require the FAFSA. These guys also require the CSS profile. If you're a split household family, these guys are going to require the information from both households. Here's the deadlines, right? So we've got everything right in there for you, so you don't have to go be chasing it down everywhere. You just tell us, where you're applying, and then in the same breath, and I know you'll double down on this, Peggy, what are these schools going to cost me? If we do get in, are we going to get financial aid? Are we going to get scholarships? What does this net cost over the course of 4 years look like next to my family's budget? That is what we should be doing now as parents as well, right? Before
Yep.
we're firing these things off, we're going to tell you this is what the school is going to cost, and here's how it fits within your family's affordability profile. And quite frankly, there's not an excuse not to be doing that right now. So,
Yep. And we're going to tell you over 4 years too. We'll show you the first year like the colleges love to do, but we'll also say, based on this is what the college is going to do for you. This is what you're bringing to the table. This is the delta. And that's really important. We talk about this all the time. It's a very emotionally packed process. And I always tell people, try and pull that out. It is hard because it's your kids and everybody parents differently. For me, from the beginning, it was like, this is the deal. So my kids knew. So I didn't have any of the drama, and that doesn't mean that's going to work with every family, but the more if you don't set any expectation, and it drives me crazy, I'm mad. We'll figure it out after they get in, quote. Just, it's a head scratcher for me, / bang my head against a wall for me. Like, how can you do that? It's just, these schools are $105,000 a year. You just can't figure it out later, even if they're 70,000, even if they're University of Washington, that's almost 40 in state. Like, that's a lot of money. over 4 years, right? It's a lot of money in 1 year. So you got to look at this. If you don't listen to anything today, listen to that. Like, look at it over 4 years. Sorry about that. We make it easy. We totally make it easy for you to see that, because that's probably like, how would I ever know that? Let us help you.
And please do, because my colleague Peggy here, she, as the kids say, Peggy, you crashed out a little bit yesterday talking about these parents that aren't paying attention and wait until too late, and and
it's
just
very frustrating, because we're here. My life has been dedicated to this. So is yours. And it's like, just listen, we're here. Like, we're not blowing smoke, right? Do this. I've been through it. Personally, Matt's been through it many, 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 many times. His daughter's too young, but it doesn't have to be as stressful as it is, truly.
Right.
Like, that's the name of my book if I ever write it, because it's insane
There you go.
how stressful it is, and it just doesn't need to be. So, yeah,
100%.
just follow along with us. We're here to relieve the stress, and then your kid finds a great place where they're going to thrive, and they're off to their next chapter.
We will end on that, Peggy. Very well said. All right, everybody. We will see you. Next week. Thanks for tuning in, and looking forward to next week. And
and next week is our Q&A grab bag. So if you're on Instagram with us, you're on Facebook, put your questions in. Say, I listened to the pod. I want Peg and Matt to answer this question. Send us your questions. That's why we're doing it. We want to answer what's keeping you guys up at night.
Beautiful.
All right. See everybody next time.
Appreciate you. Go listen to some Steely Dan.
I will.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Old College Try. I'm your host, Matt Carpenter. I was joined, as always, by the fairy godmother of financial aid, Peggy Keough. If you got anything out of it, please like us, please share us, please follow us. As always, our episode today was produced and edited by I Am Masood with an assist from Eileen Campbell. Thank you.